All right, Greg Cohen, it's so good to see you, to be here with you today. I'm particularly excited to talk with you today because I know you've been up to a lot of great stuff, health, wellness wise, helping a lot of people out there. I know that you're a group fitness manager. You're also an adjunct professor at West Coast University, which is new to me. What are you teaching over there?
Well, I teach public health courses. I also created 2 courses for their bachelor's program. So I teach both bachelor's classes and master's classes because I finished my doctorate last year in public health. So trying to give back a little bit by teaching, the next generation, if you will.
Absolutely. And then also you're an independent health and wellness coach. Talk to me a little bit about what is it that you do as a health and wellness coach?
Sure. So I'm nationally board certified. So basically, the way I kind of explain health and wellness coaching, it's kind of like a therapist for people that are looking to achieve lifestyle change or behavior change to help them improve health behaviors or health outcomes, as well as just any sort of wellness improvements, whether that's fitness, mindset. So even though my scope of practice, I'm not a therapist, for example, we do a lot of the techniques that are used in health and wellness coaching is cognitive behavioral therapy type of things in the sense of motivational interviewing and being able to help people not necessarily tell people what to do, but help people find their own intrinsic motivation and things that things that work for them versus someone saying, oh, you need to go to the gym 3 days a week. When someone hates going to the gym, that's not going to help create habits that are going to lead to behavior change that might help improve whether they have, type 2 diabetes or if they have heart disease or they're headed down that road of an unhealthy lifestyle that could lead to some sort of chronic illness. So helping people uncover their motivation, their inspiration to kind of make changes. And sometimes those changes aren't based on kind of a discussion I'll have with an intake with a client. Maybe there's things in their personal life that they're dealing with that we need to attack first, whether that's, financial or just relationships. And some are just straight health or, fitness and nutrition and things like that as well.
Yeah. Now, that's really important to bring up because it's different than one-on-one, just personal training, because both of us are from the fitness wellness realm, have worked in gym facilities, and we see people coming in all the time and they want to lose weight. There's some health risks going on that they want to manage and take care of. And it's sometimes just not as simple as just go to the gym and work out or just read this thing on nutrition. So it's great to hear because I think the industry is now like really evolving and noticing that it's more than just giving people information. It's how are you going to apply it? And I like how it's bringing in the motivational interviewing and so forth. So that's a really good point. So if somebody wanted to lose weight, they can also be with a health and wellness coach. If somebody wanted to, it's not just, it really is helps them, let's just say, get results on the goals that they have versus just trying different things all over the place, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's partially that. It's a lot of it is for them to understand kind of, I think a lot of people have different aspirations of what they want to do. They want to lose weight. They want to get stronger. They want to stop eating junk food, but some people aren't ready to fully commit where there's the theory of behavior change. There's various theories that say, you're not really at the stage where you're going to make change yet on this one, but you're maybe ready to start somewhere else. And it's more of a domino effect that will lead them to their ultimate goals. But yes, this complements health and wellness coaching. It's a little misleading in its name because you think health and wellness coach, oh, it's a trainer. It's not, you could think of it as a mindset trainer, I guess is a better, or a behavior trainer versus here, I'm going to write you a program to work out 4 or 5 days a week, or we're going to meet and do some personal training sessions one-on-one. Someone like myself, not every health and wellness coach has the fitness background where I can kind of put a lot of different things together for people, an umbrella with, different things hanging down, whether it's personal training or cooking and nutrition. And where most personal trainers, you go in there and they're there just to help you with your fitness goals per se. They might be able to give you a little nutrition. It's more helping people understand the root cause of what's holding them back and helping them make modifications in order to achieve whatever whatever their focus is.
What do you think it is? I mean, I have so many people around me and they're like, I'm trying to lose weight. I can't lose weight. I'm trying to, my triglycerides are high. I've been working out, I have a wedding coming up. I'm trying to lose weight. There's a lot of different things. And you're saying the root cause. What are you finding is a lot of times the root cause? Is there a common denominator? Should I look at something maybe that I'm not? Like, is there a common thread that you're seeing?
I'm thinking it's a little bit different for each person. I think it's very individualized because there's things that hold people back. That's why I said when I first, when I do an intake with a client or speak to someone, we kind of analyze, quote unquote, the wheel of life, if you will, because there's things that they don't think about when looking to make change. Do they have a good support system? Maybe that's something that holds them back because when they're trying to eat well, their partner doesn't want to eat well and they're not the cook of the house. So their nutrition is guided by something else. They could have an immense amount of stress because of job issues. Maybe they're not happy at their job. So it creates more depression and anxiety and they can't get their workouts done completely or they're not eating healthily. I mean, it kind of runs the gamut, if you will. I think everyone has their unique things, but there's definitely certain things. If you want to say a common thread, I think stress is one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all deal with personal stress and it impacts the way we take care of ourselves. And then, like I was saying a second ago, a lot of it is people just aren't ready to make the change. They say they want to, New Year's resolutions come around and everyone's like, I want to do X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, do they really want to do it because they really love having that glass of wine every day or, whatever the case may be. And I think that's kind of what you need to look at is where they are on kind of a readiness scale of wanting to make the change and how likely they're going to do it within the next 30 days or so.
Okay. So if I was somebody new just getting started, New Year's resolution, I'm coming in, my blood pressure's high, have a lot of stress at work, I want to lose some weight. Where would you start me? Like what, coming into you, I know you said you do an intake process. What would that consist of? Like what key questions would you ask me? Like give me a feel of how I would get started with you as a health coach. Like where would you start?
Well, kind of going back to that wheel of life kind of experience.
Got it. You're right.
I look at people in different aspects of their life and they rate themselves, on, a scale kind of almost like a 1 to 10. And whatever is doing really well in life, we don't really look at that necessarily. We may and say, well, just like anything else, what you're really good at, you should keep working on because you'll make improvements. But out of, let's say, the lowest scoring things, whether that's, let's say, financial, sleep, relationships, what of those do you feel like you need to make the biggest change on, or where do you think you need the biggest improvement? Because once you attack one and you start to work on that one, then you can move to the next one. Because I think what I find, generally, and even with myself, is if we refer back to the New Year's resolution thing that you just mentioned again, it's everyone has 15 different things they want to do, maybe 15 might be a little extravagant, it's one of those things like, well, I'm going to change my diet and everyone decides I'm going to cut out, let's just say someone wanted to go plant-based hypothetically. Going from 100 to 0 is pretty much a surefire way to fail, as we all know, because smaller steps lead to larger results, is really kind of tackling one issue at a time. Okay. So that's really what I work with on people. Depending on people's personalities and their ability to handle things, maybe we go more than 1, maybe 2, but you really don't go above that because then it's overwhelming and people start to get discouraged. And that's when they start to fail again because they don't have a good kind of plan to deal with setback or, hurdles and things like that that might come up.
That's a common thread I've been hearing, like, making small little changes, getting successful along the way. And then before you know it, you're at the big picture, which is great. How did you come to be a health and wellness coach? And being board certified is also a differentiating factor. It's great to see that there's a certifying board, not certified. Well, I speak English, Natania. Certifying board out there. And I know that that's different than me just saying, hey, I'm a health coach, right? You have to go through some strategic, like some testing, Talk to me about that.
So as part of my master's program, when I went back to school after my scleroderma diagnosis, which is a rare autoimmune condition, which I think we'll talk about.
Sure.
I went back and got my master's to help people, not only with scleroderma, but people battling chronic illness, because chronic illness is the leading cause of disease, both mortality and morbidity now in not only the country, but the world, compared to like infectious disease. So I was kind of inspired to go back to school to help people improve their lifestyle behaviors, because I think that's what caused my autoimmune diagnosis. Was just, I was living my life at the time. So I got my master's in lifestyle management, but part of that was the school that I was going to, Loma Linda University. They launched their first ever course on health coaching. And at the time, it was just through one health coaching certifying kind of organization. There's a whole bunch out there, which once you get one of those certifications, then after, I think it's 50 hours of, 50 hours of coaching sessions with actual clients, you can then sit for the national board exam, which is, I think it's like a 4-hour exam or 3-hour exam. And then depending on how you score, then just like any other sort of certifying exam, you'll become nationally board certified. And that just gives you a higher credential when it comes to coaching. So that's kind of where I did that. And then I continued on in school to get my doctorate in preventive care, which everything's obviously connected. So I work not only with clients that have illness, like I was mentioning, things like diabetes, or, dealing with, any kind of heart disease or anything like that. But just your average person that's looking to make changes because they have some unhealthy habits, or they just want to make improvements in their life.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. So you mentioned scleroderma, and you mentioned your lifestyle at the time. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how that brought you to where you are right now? Because I think your story is fantastic on how you've implemented a lot of things, and how you're getting out there and spreading the word.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been, I always thought I was pretty healthy. I think we all do at some point. But, I was an athlete growing up as a kid. I was a college athlete. I wrestled in college. My diet was not always the best. And then, after I graduated college and I started working, I continued on in the fitness realm because I was always a group fitness instructor. So I was always teaching fitness classes. But then I went to culinary school after college instead of going to law school.
I remember that.
I was like, I don't want to go to law school. I want to do something different. I want to own a restaurant.
I don't want to do law. I want to cook.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even really want to cook per se. My mom was a terrible cook. So I was I want to learn to cook better.
Got it.
But I went to culinary school because I wanted to open, and part of me still does, but I wanted to open a restaurant. I just like the hospitality industry. I like food. I like nightlife. But then I started managing restaurants, and I was kind of burning the candle at both ends. I would wake up bright and early at like 5 a.m, go teach fitness classes, and then head to work in the restaurant industry and get home at like 1 a.m. And it was kind of like this cycle on repeat. And I basically kind of did that, 5 to 7 days a week, depending on what was going on. And I, over time, I think I burnt myself out, just the stress of all of that. And, I think we all live on this hamster wheel. And unfortunately, I was always the one that would be like, oh my God, I got to make more money. So that kind of like thought process, because, life's expensive and that's what we do. So I just got into this mentality that I had to constantly work, and I didn't take a lot of time for myself for, vacation, recharge, regeneration, any of that sort of thing. And then I think over time, I just kind of wore myself down. And, a lot of autoimmune diseases are triggered. There's some trigger that gets something to come out. We may all have some sort of proclivity to having an autoimmune disease, but there's something that just sparks it. And I think my lifestyle kind of just brought it out. And I got diagnosed 7 years ago with scleroderma. Prior to that, I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is, an underactive thyroid. When I was 20, I got diagnosed with hypothyroidism, but I got the autoimmune diagnosis about 10 years ago. And then finally went back to the doctor and got diagnosed with scleroderma about 7.
What is scleroderma?
So scleroderma translates to mean hard skin. It's a connective tissue disease. Basically, your body deposits collagen in places it shouldn't. So there's two let's call it more significant forms or more dangerous forms of scleroderma. There's 4 total, I believe. But the 2 like major ones that can cause complications leading to death, unfortunately, is limited systemic and diffuse. I have limited systemic. So a lot of the tightening for me, for my, like when it comes to skin, is around my hands and my face. Whereas diffuse can happen all over the body. But the other risk is that there's complications because you can develop hardening or fibrosis in your lungs. You can have issues with pulmonary arterial hypertension, kidney issues, so on and so forth. For me also, and with other patients too, a lot of fatigue, tightness in your body, obviously because it's a connective tissue disease. So range of motion, mobility issues, things along those lines. It affects GI too. I have GI issues. I have slow motility and really bad acid reflux at times. So yeah.
Wow. But you're still, I mean, you've gotten into running marathons since this diagnosis, right? You've run how many marathons?
I've run 10 so far.
And you didn't prior to this diagnosis. You did running, or did you?
I mean, I ran as an athlete in the sense of I played soccer and lacrosse, so I was more of a sprinter than I would be like a distance runner. I think prior to my diagnosis, I was like, I'm going to run a marathon, and I would sign up 100 times and, waste the money on a registration and not complete it. And then I finally got diagnosed, and part of me, when I got diagnosed, aside from some like sadness and depression that came over, my ex-wife at the time kind of like motivated and said, you need to do something with your illness. Like there's, like you can't just mope around all day. So I decided to become an advocate. And because other than Bob Saget, whose sister had passed away from the illness quite a long time ago, there was no face of scleroderma. There's no, it's not like the American Cancer Society, American Diabetes Society Association, where there's public figures that, help to raise money and awareness. And scleroderma is a rare disease. And most of the time it affects women. 4 out of 5 people are women that got diagnosed. I decided that I wanted to do something to try to raise awareness. And being an athlete, I was like, well, what can I do? And I decided at that point I was going to start running marathons because they're in front of larger populations, the amount of people that run and then fans. And so I decided I'd run my first marathon, and I did that. I think it was 2017, I believe. 2017, 2018. I did the Los Angeles Marathon as my first.
Did it have an impact on your training? Did it help it? Did it inhibit it? Like, how were you able to, because running a marathon, that's a lot of mileage, wear and tear in your body, a lot of recovery and work. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so initially running, I definitely had days where, my long runs didn't really become long runs just because my body was uncomfortable, tightness throughout, things like that. More recently, it's become better because I've trained better. When I first started, I was like, I followed training program, but I didn't really follow the training program. So I still did well. I think my first marathon, I ran like 4:18, but it was funny. I would sign up for another one and my training would kind of be the same. And I always continued to run around 4:18. And I'm like, I want to break 4 hours. And it wasn't until basically last year where I started really training well and I started hitting personal records and things like that. And then this past January, I ran 3:47, which I didn't even think. I was like 3:59. That's all I want to do. And I ended up in 3:47, which was amazing. And my coach is like, I think you can eventually qualify for Boston. And I'm like, that's another 30 minutes off my time. But
hey,
but to answer your question, there's challenging. And the other thing for me is I run alone most of the time because of my work schedule. So when groups get together on Saturdays, I'm at work. So I have to find that intrinsic motivation to run those long 17, 18, 20 miles by myself, which is good sometimes because you can kind of get lost in your thoughts and find that runner's high while you're by yourself. But it's also a challenge when you're not with people. That's why I like to do races, because when I'm around 15,000 people, it's so much easier to keep going.
It is the community.
Yeah.
Isn't that one of the spokes on the wheel? Community. Yeah, right.
Communities especially when it comes to lifestyle medicine, relationships and community and social interaction. Yeah, that's huge.
How did you handle, how did you take care of your body while you were doing all this mileage, and while you were training? Because it is a soft tissue. It does affect your soft tissue, right? And there is tightening. Did you take care of your body in a certain way? Was there anything special that you focused on?
When I'm good about it, yes.
Okay.
When I'm not good about it like everyone else, no. But I've gotten better, especially when it comes to like nutrition and hydration, things like that. But also, as a patient, and I would assume a lot of other people dealing with various diseases can attest to it, I would hope, is that just listening to your body. That's why sometimes, even now when I'm training well, there's times I'm like kind of hitting a wall and I need to say, you know what, I'm supposed to go for 17 miles today. I'm going to do 14 or 15 just because I don't want to push myself over that edge. But I also know I can make up that mileage at another time. Or if, I wake up in the morning, my body's really tight, I'm supposed to do a long run, I may swap my days. So instead of doing my long run on, let's just say Sunday, I'll do it on Monday, or, I'll just kind of rotate my schedule around a little bit. And then typical, making sure, I get massages sometimes, foam rolling, all that stuff. I work in a gym, which is great because I have a lot of ability to get some help from people that I know too when it comes to stretching and stuff like that. But yeah, I do the best I can. I think as I've been training and running more, I've learned how to take care of my body.
Now you did say something like you listen to your body. Like, here's my question. And this, was a struggle for me and still is some days. And I just want to get how you would help somebody through this. When I used to run track, it was all like no pain, no gain. Like, yeah, you're going to be sore. You're going to be training your body. You got to get out there and push those. I was a sprinter, but for some reason, my coach had me do mid-long distance, cross country, excuse me. So there was like extra mileage there. And I had to be like, oh, my body's sore. And I'd be like, it's all right, just get on the track, keep going. Like, as a health and wellness coach, somebody just getting started, how do you know the difference? How do you ask yourself, how do you walk yourself through like, oh, this is my body talking to me versus I'm just being lazy. I'm not doing what I should be doing.
That's a good question because I fight with both. Honestly, there's I think just human nature. We can just be like, you know what, I'm gonna cash it in for today and just, I'll do better next time. I think for me, it's hard to say. When I talk to a client versus talking to myself, it's obviously different, right? But for myself, I think I've learned through my life's experiences. Like you were a track athlete, I was a wrestler, so it definitely was no pain, no gain. My coach used to say, are you hurt or are you injured? Because if you're hurt, you keep going. If you're injured, then you go to the trainer and you have to do whatever, rehab or go on the bike or what have you. I think now I give myself a little more grace because I also know I'm not going to win the marathon, right? So if I'm signed up for a race, I know I'm not going to win, right? Okay. There's no way I'm running 2 hours and 4 minutes. I have personal goals, right? Because yes, I want to keep getting better and improving on my time. But I think it's also kind of in a way going back to that mindset, like, am I injured or am I really not feeling well? Or am I just kind of like, I just don't want to do it today. And at the same time, there are those days where I'm like, I just don't want to do it. And I give myself the grace and I make a plan. So I think that's the one thing I do with my clients too, is letting them know that, it's not okay to always just like give up and give in. It's about being able to change the plan. So because I always say it's like nothing's ever linear, right? And I just gave a talk on goal setting at a conference. And one of the things I put up is, sometimes our goals, we hit traffic jams in life and we need to find a different route. It's like when you're using whatever GPS navigation on your phone or your car and you're driving, if there's massive traffic, it'll reroute it'll give you options to go somewhere else. So I always ask people to plan for that and figure out where their reroute is. So is the reroute, if you're really not going to do it today, then how are you going to make this up tomorrow or the next day and be able to not lose a step? Because one of the things I tell people when I teach group fitness classes is I always say, you can't get back today something tomorrow. So you can't get back what you're missing out today. So if you decide, well, I'm not going to run a mile today, well, you've lost today to do that. So how are you going to be able to make up or do something better the next day to continue to make improvements and gains versus just say, well, I didn't do it today, let's just move on to tomorrow, which is fine. But what you don't do today, you can't get back tomorrow. So you need to figure out how to make that adjustment and reroute it. And for some people, it just may be that if you're not going to run today, cool, maybe you go hit the rower or you go for a swim or you go lift weights. So there's a different way to still get your fitness in or whatever the case may be. We'll use fitness as the example, without losing a step, while you're also giving yourself that kind of mental break. Because for some people, maybe you can say this too. I know for runners especially, sometimes you just need that mental break and a change of kind of scenery instead of running all the time, to keep yourself motivated and still moving and active.
Yeah, I used to have my best times when I wasn't running, when I was like teaching group fitting, and just training and cross training. So you're absolutely right with that. I really like the way you look at goals, and that's something that you do with clients as well through the coaching, I assume.
Yeah.
Anything else that you wanted to bring to light? Like, I guess my final question before we wrap it up is, if you were to give any advice to somebody, sitting there or listening to this or watching this, and, they've been meaning to do something and get up, and they know they need to be healthier and lose weight, and, whatever the situation is, what would be one piece of advice that you would tell them?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of cliche because a lot of people say it, but it literally is just taking the first step. I think and it's kind of multifold, I guess. I can't just say it's one piece. I think there's that, but then there's the don't overcommit and underdeliver. Start with something that's manageable, because a lot of people, number one, they take a big task on and then they might fail or there's setbacks and then they get demoralized and it prevents them from continuing that forward progress. So I always tell people, try to take something or achieve something small and then, applaud yourself for the small victory. Even if it's literally like, I'm going outside and I'm going to walk to the end of the block today. If I've never done, let's just say I'm a couch potato or, sedentary and I don't do a lot of physical activity. I'm going to go out and walk, a block or a half a mile, and your ultimate goal, let's say I want to run a 5K. Well, you got to start somewhere. So give yourself the grace and celebrate yourself for doing that half a block or half a mile or whatever the case may be, because those small little victories will lead to bigger and better things. And then the only other thing I tell people, and I have it tattooed on my arm, is my little saying that I say is that movement is life, just keep moving. So I just think, just move. That's my whole thing. Like, just move. And my own brand is called Confidence and Movement. And it's just about being confident in every aspect of your life, whether you're moving through your kitchen, whether you're moving outside, moving through whatever struggles you're dealing with, is just having that confidence and know how that you're going to get through whatever you're trying to do.
That's incredible. I mean, we've known you for a while, Greg, and I know it's been a while since we've caught up, and I love what you're doing right now. And if somebody wants to get in contact with you, and they want to take that first step, they don't know where to go, how would they want to give you a call and say, hey, help me get started? How would they do that? Do you have a website? Are you on Instagram?
My website's actually under construction because I just rebranded my logo and everything. So hopefully that'll be done in the next, I'm going to say, month, give or take.
Okay.
But they can definitely reach me on my Instagram at Gregory_Cohen. I'm going to be launching another Instagram too, because I have a strong desire, just because of what I've been going through personally over the last 2 years. I really want to help men specifically. So I have another Instagram called the Tight Guy Practice that I'm going to start launching, just because of like the mental health component. There was a golfer that just took his life 2 days ago on the PGA Tour because of depression and things like that. And I want to help men specifically deal with kind of society's norms about how they're supposed to behave and how they're supposed to feel. Long story short, Gregory_Cohen. If you want to link my email address in your show notes, you can do that too, or people can reach me at greg@confidenceandmovement.com. And then once my website's up, it'll be confidenceandmovement.com as well.
That's incredible. And I think that's really needed out there. What you talked about at the end in regards to men's support group. I'd love to bring you back to talk a little bit more about that in one of our future episodes, if you're okay with that. If you could deal with me. No.
I think I've known you long enough. I definitely can handle that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Greg, for your time. I look forward to talking with you again and appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. Bye-bye.